Thank you for taking time out, especially after your keynote speaking, and it was wonderful. So we are having this podcast, and let me tell you, the name of the podcast is Leaders of Impact Stories Behind Success. So we have Mr. Siddharth Roy Kapur here, founder and MD, Roy Kapur Films. We have Pavan Ranga, Chairman, Rangsons and Director, NR Group. And we have with us Hiroshi, Nishijima, CEO of ZoomCar. Thank you, all of you. So welcome to this podcast by Brand Talk, and I am your host today, Madhushree, who is the founder and CEO of Brand Talk. And today we have an incredible trio of leaders joining us. So here's Siddharth Roy Kapur, the creative genius behind Indian cinema blockbusters. And then we have Hiroshi, the mobility mastermind and the CEO of ZoomCar, and Pavan Ranga, dynamic entrepreneur, shaping industries from aerospace to education. We are super excited today as these incredible leaders will share their insights on leadership, their industry journeys, and some unforgettable success stories. So let's get ready for an inspiring conversation and with some of the best minds in business. So let's get to session 1, which is leadership and your industry. So straight away asking you, Siddharth, your work has reshaped storytelling in the entertainment world. How do you balance creative freedom with business side of filmmaking?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting question when it comes to any creative industry, right? Because you're always trying to balance art and commerce, and there's that sort of delicate balance that you need to maintain between the two.
True.
I think the first thing is to stay humble about not resting on your laurels of the past, because all glory is very fleeting when it comes to any creative business. Yeah. And I think you really need to start from ground zero on every project.
True.
And so don't be weighed down by the baggage of past scar tissue that might be caused by either success or failure. Because very often we tend to have those mindsets when we react to a creative piece of work. And so I try to be as objective as possible and remove any of the baggage of the past. For example, if I might have done a comedy just recently that hasn't worked at the box office and I'm here in another comedy, I might laugh my head off and then say, no, but do I want to do another comedy? But actually that might be the one to do.
Yeah.
It's just that it's coming on the back of one that hasn't worked. Right?
Sure, true.
And I think that's where we often let our inborn prejudices come in the way. I think also it's about not putting people into boxes and not presuming that because someone is business, they don't understand creative, or someone is creative, they don't understand business. And so just trying to deal with each individual as they are.
And even each project as it is.
Yes, exactly.
So that's worked for you,
That's just a few things that one has to keep in mind.
So most of your films have done so well commercially. Is it this reason particularly that you have a perfect blend of the commerce and the creative side to it? Because a lot of filmmakers today, they are very emotional about their project. And in that emotions, they also lose the math. And that's where a lot of films don't do well. So you have any thoughts to that?
I think the producer has to be the catalyst, and you have to let the director be really passionate about the project, because that's their job, right?
True.
If they aren't passionate, they aren't feeling emotionally invested, then they're not, going to be giving it their all. You've got to be sort of the rational voice in the room when it comes to guiding it towards a direction that might be more market oriented, at the same time without demotivating the creative people involved in the process, and sort of ensuring that you maintain that delicate balance all the time. So I'd say emotion and passion are very important in the business I'm in, and actually I believe in any business, right? But you just have to be the right kind of catalyst in that process and not veer too much one way or the other.
Great. Can you share a moment when trusting your instinct led to a groundbreaking project?
I think in the case of Dangal, that's one example. This young girl in our creative team actually came up with the news article from the Times of India about the Fogart sisters. And she said that, I've read about these wrestling sisters and I'd love to go and research them. I think the first instinct was, wow, that's going to be something that's quite strange to see cinematically, because we hadn't really seen female wrestlers on screen before that.
True.
But I definitely found it very intriguing. So I said, why don't you go and meet the family? And she went and met the family and she said, it's actually about the father. And it's about the change in the mindset of the father about thinking he can live his dreams only through his sons, and then not having any sons, and then realizing that, okay, I can do the same thing through my daughters.
So it also talks about the break in the patriarchal
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that was able to resonate so wonderfully across cultures. Like I was talking about it just now, like in China, right? You wouldn't have imagined that would connect, but I guess the cultures are the same in a sense, where you believe the male child is the child that will live out your dreams.
True.
And then it's the change in mindset to believe that the girl child can do the same.
Great. Lovely. Thank you so much for that. So moving to Hiroshi, I have a question here that your journey spans continents and sectors. From consulting to leading major app-based mobility platforms. What's the biggest leadership lesson you've learned in the fast-paced industry? And can you share a bold decision that turned an idea into reality?
I think broadly, my role hadn't changed that much since I moved from consulting industry to startup, because consultants basically serves to CEOs. It helps CEOs to
facilitates or guides or advise
and helps
rather.
to. So basically, CEOs is people who always have something in their mind, right? I want to go to right. So then the consultant's role is to not to tell him to go to left, right? Its role is to help him faster to go to the right hand side.
True.
So that's the role. And then when I moved to tech industry, I reported to CEOs, founder CEOs. They are essentially the same as like a big company CEOs. They have always like tons of things they want. Oh, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this. My role was to help him to get there, and sometimes slightly help him to prioritize things, because they have so many things in their mind. So in that sense, there's no big change in my mind. But after I was appointed as a CEO, it's a totally different world.
Ballgame.
Totally different world. So I need to make a decision, or right hand side or left hand side, which side I want.
So which side you feel is better off?
Essentially, I am comfortable to be in the consultant world. However, now I am enjoying, because at the time, so there's no answer in the world, right? Like the moment I need to make a decision whether I should go to right or left, I'm alone. Like the story around CEO or club resonated a lot. So that moment is, okay, now I talk to myself, like I am tempted to go probably similar to your wrestling story. So whether we should go to meet the family. So talk to myself. I try to understand myself. Okay, so my mind says I want to go to right hand side. Okay, so let's park it one day for now and think about it tomorrow. Do I still want to go to right? And then do this.
So you're playing the consultant to yourself.
That's correct. So doing this sparring within myself, I'm pretty much enjoying this.
Super. I have a question, another one for you here, is that you've been with companies at the forefront.
Yeah.
Can you share a story from your time at ZoomCar or Grab, where your leadership approach led to breakthrough or a game-changing moment in the mobility industry?
So, as I said, the moment is basically always like decentralization. So automotive industry, probably similar to the content industry, is all about, historically it's all about capital. You need to play, you need capital to play serious game in this world. But now, because of that software technology, TikTokers can create short contents. But that's a decentralization piece. But at the same time, serious contents, movie contents, online gaming contents go to the centralization piece. It's globally distributed. So this polarization of centralization and decentralization is happening in the automotive industry as well. If you look at EV, electronic, like EV batteries, highly centralized chips as well, versus like a downstream rental car industry, cab industry, like Uber, Ola. It's all about decentralization. Micro entrepreneurs, everyone who were not there in the industry.
Sure.
So I am extremely happy. I'm very passionate to decentralize the centralized industry.
Lovely.
Because it helps to create so many micro entrepreneurs.
You think from a point of disruption or
Yeah.
anything in those lines where
I would be very careful whether we are disrupting the industry, probably not helping to migrate from centralized world to decentralized world. Yeah.
Great. So Pavan, as a third generation entrepreneur, you've overseen diversified industries from aerospace to education. How do you define leadership when navigating such a broad spectrum of, businesses rather? And what challenges have shaped your approach across these sectors?
Look, diversification, right, is you don't do it for the sake of it. There is a purpose and an intent why you diversify. In my case, like I said, when I attended a very interesting family succession planning workshop,
Okay.
one of the realizations was that unlike historical setups where multiple family members would play an operations role or a finance role or a marketing role in a company, after the 2000s, there was a general belief that that will not work.
Mm-hmm.
If you were a family business that had to successfully thrive, you needed entrepreneurs. You needed family members to become entrepreneurs.
True.
And professionals who are best at what they do to handle the actual verticals. So we believed in that, backed ourselves, and that drove the strategy of diversification, both related and unrelated. Now, of course, there are a lot of challenges, but what we always believed is if you perpetuate the culture that has made you successful, what is that? The fundamental virtues: respect customers,
True.
relentless pursuit of quality,
True.
respect individuals.
True.
You are a community as a whole. Take them with you. Whether I'm in agarbattis, whether I'm in perfumery creating the core essence of Christian Dior's Poison, or I'm delivering the crew module to ISRO's manned mission, or I'm delivering a critical satellite communication to the likes of Boeing, ultimately all of these fundamental virtues are the same.
True.
And so if you build that culture and you don't sway from these, diversification becomes a little more calibrated and your success rate and hit rate increases.
Super. Thank you. So one thing I'm very keen to know, you've climbed, Mount Kilimanjaro, if I get that right, and trekked to Everest base camps as well. In your view, how do your adventures like this relate to the leadership challenges you face in the boardroom? Has there been a specific moment when experiences nature helped shape your approach to leadership?
Absolutely. I think it happens in multiple ways, First, you face challenges in nature and you overcome challenges, sometimes alone, sometimes as a team.
Sure.
And generally, being in a very prominent family business in our region, we end up taking the leadership role in those situations. And you face circumstances that you haven't faced before, and you need to take quick decisions.
True.
This capability and quality comes back and impacts you positively in the boardroom or in the shop floor as a leader. Second, if you take the case of trekking, for example, while a lot of people think it's a physical challenge, if viewed in the right perspective, it's actually a philosophical journey. When you are climbing up the mountain with limited oxygen and there is nobody else around you and you are with the magnanimity of the mountains or the forests or whatever else, it is a philosophical journey, and I think that is the right perspective with which one should take up such a challenge and an adventure. Now, this gives you a certain sense of maturity. You detach from the day-to-day ongoings, and that is a deep kind of a reset and a break. And when we go back into the day-to-day rigors of business, you now have the ability to embrace new perspectives, and be even more empathetic as well, because you are now philosophically a little more mature, evolved. So it
rather
does
more
have,
of a filling of your cups so that you're able to give.
And because on the one hand you're a taskmaster, on the other hand you need empathy.
True.
So this is, I think all of these experiences really help us evolve as a businessman as well, as an entrepreneur businessman as well.
Amazing. So we move to the segment 2, which is success stories and goof ups. We are all talking about successes. Let's also hear something interesting. So now that we've heard your leadership journeys, It's time to dive into the heart of what makes you so very successful. Your unique stories and some unexpected twist along the way. Let's hear the moments that made you go, oh, this is why I do what I do. And maybe some that made you think, did that really just happen? Okay, so let's start on a high note. Tell our proudest moments, and then don't worry, we'll get to the funny bits as well. Okay, so starting with Siddharth, you've shaped some of your biggest cinematic moments in Indian history. Could you share a behind the scenes success story from a film that you're particularly fond of and proud of, rather?
That's a great question. I can give you a couple of instances. I think Rang De Basanti was the first film that I was involved in, and that spoke about the heroes that brought us our freedom, juxtaposed with the youth of today, and what the youth of today feel about. Have sort of lost touch with what got us to where we are today, but in a way are living out the same realities, just that they don't even know it. And then it took someone to come in from the outside to give them that perspective.
True.
And then brought them to action, right? And of course, it deals with some issues that we were having with, equipment in the armed forces, this, that, and the other, which was actually incidental. That was part of the plot. But I think it was the first time I realized the incredible power of cinema. We were traveling with the cast and crew, and we were going from theatre to theatre on the release weekend, and we'd enter the screen at the end of the film once the lights came up, and then you had the audience there, and then they had to interact with Amir Khan and the rest of the cast. And you had people there breaking down and, just sort of being so emotionally involved, not able to speak because they were so choked up, and bringing up their life experiences, talking about what they feel about the country, talking about where the country is today, where the country should be, things like that. And I just felt, wow, a 2.5 hour movie can do that, can make people feel that way.
True.
And that's why, that gave me that feeling of, okay, this is now, I've sort of found my calling in a sense, that this is what I want to be doing, this is what I want to be involved in.
Okay.
I had a similar experience when I made this film called The Sky is Pink, recently, which is about a family that's dealt with a child who's gone through a life-threatening illness, and their quest to bring that child the help that she needs. A very special child who was able to write a book and compose music and really do so many wonderful things in her brief time on earth, basically 18 years. And that brought to light some about basically pulmonary this thing called pulmonary fibrosis, which is an illness that. And there was a page that was set up for people to go and donate their bone marrow and donate their blood for this cause. And that saw a massive spike after the film, which again gives you that feeling that, okay, cinema can do many things at the same time. It can entertain, but it can also in its own small way change the world.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
And I just, those are two pretty
But what
significant
about,
ways.
did that really just happen? That
Oh,
moment?
I've had too many moments like that to even talk about.
Share one with us.
Okay. I guess I'll have to name the film in order to be able to really make it land. But yeah, we made a film called Himmat Wala, which was a remake of a 80s film called Himmat Wala. We went in with all good intentions. We are doing a 80s throwback. Ajay Devgan, Sajid Khan, great cast, director, this, that, and the other. And we just went so badly wrong because I think we all just so badly underestimated how far the audience had gone since the 80s. And rather than doing a take on an 80s film, we made an 80s film again. Right? So effectively, that was a big slap on the face at the box office. And I've had many of those. I've had too many to recall. But the thing in our business is that your failures and your successes are very public.
Sure.
And so you have to really spend that time licking your wounds, but going to parties and having everyone look at you with a look like someone has died and giving you their condolences. And you're like, I don't want you to know that I'm going through this. But you have to very publicly go
True
through
that. Thank you so much. Hiroshi, coming to you,
Yeah.
is that you have revolutionized the mobility with ZoomCar, of course. Could you share, a moment of success that felt like a game changer for your company?
Yeah, sure. It's a good point.
And a
But
mishap
I think, yeah. I think the game-changing moment is exactly when ZoomCar decided to transform ourselves from asset-heavy rental car company to asset-light car sharing platform is a big decision, And then the great thing of the founder, back then I was the COO, and there's a founder CEO. He made a decision to sell the cars, all the cars. Back then we had around 10,000 cars on our balance sheet. Sell everything immediately and quickly move to the marketplace car sharing business model. Everyone was skeptical, even employees. And should we go gradually rather than going at one go? That's a key question they had. But he has made a decision, and as a founder, CEO, he made his call. All the risk I will take, let's go ahead. And then, okay, so if you say so, we will go ahead. Then that created the commitment, because there's no more cars to rent for us. So we need to go. So everyone put all their resources, brain power to make this successful. So that changed.
So one idea changed things for you.
One idea and the commitment.
And I think he believed in what
he believed
yeah.
in. He believed in. And then he created the strong commitment by selling the cars. Okay, so there's nothing. So there's only a cliff behind us. So we can't go back. Just move on.
And anything that you would say with your decisions that has really gone wrong?
The decision really gone wrong. Okay, so many examples, but I would share one example I did in Grab, not in ZoomCar. So there was one big investor, one of the largest investor was pushing Grab to start car leasing initiative to lease the car, buy the car, and lease the car to ride-hailing drivers. Because basically they are they don't have a financial score, so if they go to banks, they don't get a loan. So instead of banks to provide the loan to them, so Grab as a ride-hailing platform to provide the financial facility to them so that they can buy a car. And then the behind the scene is that by doing this, they will be so committed to Grab, and they don't work for Uber. And then also can reduce, because of this commitment, reduce the incentives. So back then there is a huge incentives they had. So that's the initiative. So we started this just one day before launching. My team member came to me. I'm so sorry. I had told you that we cut the incentive because of this commitment, but actually I didn't tell it to the drivers. So they don't know about cutting the incentives. So they are coming with the expectation that I still get the incentives and I also get the car. Yeah, but we committed to investors that we are giving cars, and then we cut the incentives. So financially we become stable. Right. So that's the whole story. But one day before launching this, the team came to me that it's not going to happen.
So how did you manage that?
I honestly, in facing hundreds of potential drivers,
had to tell them.
Yeah, just told them that the logic, because car, that happened in Indonesia, similar to India. Indonesian people still believes that car is my emotional asset. So I talked about this emotional story that car is great, and so you own the car in the end of the program. But that was like... she hinted...
But did it have a collateral damage to your business, or
no,
you managed to sabotage
managed
the situation?
But the key learning for me is that she hinted multiple times, but because my mind is so much like, okay, we need to do this, deliver this, because we committed. So then I didn't listen to her. Yeah. So then one night before she came to me that, I'm so sorry, I didn't tell you clearly, but...
Oh, okay. Nice. So moving to Pavan, leading such a diversified conglomerate, must have come across memorable milestones. Can you take us one of your proudest achievements that, just makes you think that I've really achieved it? I mean, you've done so much.
No, I think achievement is a matter of a goal. And I believe, journey is where the real fun is. So I'll give you an example. Back in the early 2000s, mid 2000s, when I set up the electronics design and manufacturing outfit, I said, let's focus on engineered products for aerospace, for medical electronics, for oil and gas, because that's what India's strength is. Because the consumer electronics were all going to China, and China was super efficient.
True.
But then I realized as I grew and bid on global contracts, components pricing is a economies of scale game. Now, I didn't have the volumes in my business, but I had to be competitive. I didn't know what to do. So I put my mind and heart into possible solutions. What I ended up doing was I got one company similar to mine in every continent. Went to Brazil, went to North America, China, Vietnam, Europe. Got us all together, built a back-end database consolidating all our component buys.
Okay.
Went and negotiated with the global big semiconductor guys and got world-class competitive pricing. Now what that did was my competitors at my size had no way to compete with me anymore. And so we grew almost, this is traditional cutting-edge manufacturing, not a digital play. And we grew 10x in 5 years.
Oh. Ooh.
It was humongous growth. Humongous, profitable, significant growth. And I think that decision that I took, and we set up the central sourcing office in Shenzhen, then Hong Kong. This, I think, made me feel very proud because, this was a key inhibiting factor, and I was able to crack that, and it made me feel very, very proud of myself, when these things happen. So that's, I would say, one
Amazing.
of the prouder moments of
Thank you for sharing this big achievement. So, Pavan, with such a diverse career, ever had a moment where your wildlife photography or trekking adventures unexpectedly took center stage in a boardroom? We'd love to hear about a funny mishap from that.
Well, to be honest, I can't think of one. I'll have to make up one, which I don't want to. But I'll tell you what, there's been a lot of mishaps in the boardroom. The funniest thing I can remember was, there was a shareholder conference, and the shareholders were asking some questions, and I was completely in another zone because I had just come back from a wildlife trip. My mind was absorbed in processing those photos and everything. And I gave them an answer that absolutely did not make sense to them, not to me. But luckily, these shareholders were private investors and it's not a listed entity yet. But they were looking at me, not knowing what to say. And, I could see, and then I got a message from my cousin saying, "What the hell are you saying?" I was like, I don't know, I was just stunned. I didn't know whether to laugh. And then I was very honest with them though. Then I said, "Look guys, I'm totally zoned out. I have no idea what I'm talking." And these things have happened.
Good. That's nice. Hilarious.
Yeah.
So we come to the last leg. So now let's talk about the event. Okay, so we all have assembled for this AI Acceleration 2, and thank you, Siddharth, for coming over from Mumbai, making time out. Hiroshi and Pavan also amongst your busy schedule. See, it's a platform for exploring new opportunities in alternative investments. So we have various, which we discussed, media entertainment also being one. With all these thoughtful conversations that we've had today, we are really intrigued to hear about your insights about this forum and how we can improvise this further. Because you all asked me before this question that are you doing it every year? So question to Siddharth would be, firstly, thank you for being here. AISL's focus is on innovation. How do you foresee alternative investment trends shaping the future of film production in India?
So, to be completely honest, I think the content production sector in India has not really looked to attract investment at the level as we should have so far.
In a more formal way.
In a formal way. It's been much more unstructured. Also, I think the fact that there's been financing coming in from studios and platforms has led to a certain amount of risk aversion when it comes to the content production sector, because you work on a commission model, you make your margin, you don't really build that much value for the future. but you're content to be a sole proprietor doing what you're doing. I do think there's a massive opportunity that we're leaving on the table when it comes to the value that we can build for the future.
True.
When it comes to intellectual property. Because I firmly believe that the next couple of decades in content, I think in pretty much everything, but in content as well, will be India's time to stride into the global arena.
True.
And why should we not be at the forefront of being able to monetize and value that IP that we are spending so much time creating? And therefore, I think this is a great attempt, things like this forum, to reach out to the investment community and to explain to them a little bit more about media and entertainment, because we've been quite insular in our approach so far.
And also break the myth that films don't make money, but they actually make money.
And also that it's like any other diversified business model where theatrical does not have to be, everything. And that earlier, that hit and miss of if it works at the box office, that it's a hit, if it doesn't, it's a flop. It could still be perceptually a hit or a flop, but commercially and financially, a film that's perceived to not have done well theatrically could actually still be a moneymaker.
Yeah.
If you're able to scale your business in a way where you're able to de-risk your revenues and hedge your bets in a way that you've built that volume, that quality, that scale.
True.
And I do believe that kind of a model for the future of the Indian content business is very essential. And also just the element of the soft power that we can actually wield around the world by getting Indian culture out to the world. Not in a pedantic, boring way, where, we're trying to lionize our culture and saying it's more just about people enjoying what we're putting out there.
True.
And the more they enjoy, the more intrigued they'll be, the more they'll want to know about India, the more that virtuous cycle keeps growing.
True.
And I think we can play a huge role in that.
Absolutely. Thank you. So, Hiroshi, how does AISL emphasize, which is emphasizing on alternative investments, align with your vision for sustainable urban mobility? And what future trends do you anticipate in the mobility sector?
In the mobility sector, yeah, definitely the mobility sector is moving towards sustainability. But at the same time, as I said, there is a polarization on centralization and decentralization. So the core manufacturing sector, like battery manufacturing, chip making, should go to the extreme centralization. I'm not sure if India is going to play a big role or willing to play a big role in this, because there are so many other places which are good at. But on the other hand, the decentralization piece, which I believe India has a tremendous opportunity, because by nature, the country itself is so much diversified.
Sure.
And people are moving. Some people grew up in Mumbai and now working in Bangalore. There are so many people, and cross-cultural diversification is happening, which is a good incubators for the decentralized culture of mobility. For example, so our biggest market is Bangalore, and next biggest market is Pune.
Oh,
and it's a bit surprising.
Very similar.
Yeah, but from my point of view, like as a foreigner, if I look at the population, market, GDP by city, why Delhi is not the biggest one, why Mumbai is not the biggest market for us? It's because of the lab for or acceptance for the new service, new technology. So I think this automotive sector, mobility sector will continuously going for the decentralization. Many different services, new businesses, ideas will be coming into the market. India will accept. Some city embraces, some city doesn't embrace, but this will be a big chemistry
So India
fit.
is a big market for you.
I think so, yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
So Pavan, considering AISL's focus on sustainable lifestyles, how do you see the intersection of alternative investments and industrial innovation driving major investments and progress in diversified sectors with like electronics and aerospace?
I'll give you a perspective. I'll give you two perspectives. One, as an investor. When I look at, I run our family office, our entire family's family office. And every time we have a liquidity event, I'm talking to all the potential wealth management advisors or the investment banker intermediaries and so on. I think as an industry, we have a long way to go. We don't have sophisticated products for more mature investors. Investor is now most investors are a lot more globally aware of what alternative investment instruments are available and possible.
True.
So this is one. The second thing is people who sell products, alternative investment products, the sales guys don't have a clear understanding
Yes.
of articulating risk.
True.
They know what is the return
Yes.
that is projected or estimated or targeted. But ability to articulate and understand risk for an investor is the key role of that intermediary.
Absolutely.
And this I have seen has a major gap.
Yes.
And we have an investment vehicle in Singapore, in US, and I've seen how those interactions go. So I think there is a way to go in alternative investments, especially for the more sophisticated investor community. That is from an investor standpoint. As somebody who's running a company that is having multiple companies, some having private equity in it, some on the verge of going IPO, some with debt capital and so on. Again, I have seen, for example, defense and aerospace, right? Any industry that has a long gestation has a challenge of working capital.
Yes.
And then if they're growing fast, then that gets exaggerated. Now the banking system in India does not have a solution for this. They don't have a product.
True.
Now the alternate
Yeah.
investment market is what should come in and plug this.
Absolutely.
So the NBFCs, have a quasi little bit of an idea. The non-traditional AIFs are trying to plug it, but we're trying to find a way. But what I've seen as a good part in all of this is that the funding community, whether it's the equity funding, debt funding, or the alternate investment funding community, they are open to adapting to this change.
And they're also looking at sunrise sectors today.
Correct.
Yeah.
And they're looking to learn from how, what kind of solutioning can be provided.
Yeah.
So that's the good part.
Yes.
As somebody who's looking for investments, and that was a perspective as an investor.
Lovely. So what an insightful and thought-provoking session this was, and I sincerely thank all of you for spending this time. You were running short of time, still you gave me so much, so really grateful for that. So your contributions to cinema, mobility and diversified industries are really, really very inspiring. So on behalf of Brand Talk and EISL, we deeply appreciate your time. Before we wrap up, let's capture this moment with a little photograph, commemorating this evening dialogue. Please join me in having